Joining me now live is broadcaster Craig Foster and New South Wales One Nation leader Tania Mihailuk. Thank you so much to both of you
yes.
for joining us
Good
Friday.
to be with you.
Friday. We made it to
maybe not this week.
Maybe not this week, Craig. Look, you've obviously had a big week. There's been a lot going on, obviously, as I've just spoken about in the world of soccer and
in football.
So look, let's obviously start with Sam Kerr. Now, it's alleged she said stupid white cop. That's what's been alleged, not stupid white bastard. Either way, do you think what she said was racist?
That's the right question, and the real answer, which I'd imagine will be the same for many of your viewers around the country, is I thought yes. And I thought there's two issues here. One is whether they're offensive comments, which clearly they would be if proven, and we've made the point many times that we're talking here, we're speculating because we're still not clear. But, we have to talk about it. I have to talk about it because I talk about it in a whole range of sports, so I can't avoid it when it comes to ours. It's important. And also when it comes to racism and having these conversations, we don't really do it well as a country. I'm an anti-racism campaigner, as it happens, Australian Human Rights Commission and a grassroots campaign, Racism Not Welcome. And so I thought that, racism was about using terms of colour in some sort of derogatory way against anyone, including, white people. But in the last couple of days, I've had the opportunity to speak to many anti-racism organisations and experts, and the part that I was missing out, and I think most people, and this is important for us all to know, is that racism is racialised harm or commentary or so on against marginalised groups. Okay, so groups who...
It can be against marginalised. It's not.
It can be, yes. So I think it can be against many groups, but the term that Diversity Council of Australia use, and they're a really outstanding organisation that I support, is race-based social power, is what they're saying. So racism, the definition, as I now understand it, is basically someone who has some form of history or, within society they're already marginalised or have these additional
issues. So what you're saying is a white...
Definitions are changing now.
So you're saying white...
Well, I think the definitions have been there.
That's not racist.
That's right. That's right.
You started off so well, Craig.
Because
you started off so well. I thought you were actually acknowledging that the comment is wrong.
Yeah, I'm saying the comment is wrong. I am saying the comment is wrong.
Now we're getting these, Diversity Council and everybody else is, deciding to give us new definitions.
Well, no, it's not new. It's not new definitions. It's just the definitions that I'm discovering. Because, like Australia, I think we're all learning, and rightly so. And this is the beautiful thing about sport, where I spend most of my time. Is because sport brings these things out, it gives us the opportunity to talk about them, as uncomfortable as they are.
I think there's a whole plethora of people on the left side. Left-wing activists now who are just trying to find a way of just sweeping this under the carpet. That's what this is about now. And you've got all these feminists coming out, you've got politicians, Labor politicians, the Premier of New South Wales, the Prime Minister of Australia, essentially saying there's nothing to see here. She's a nice person. That might be the case. That may be the case. No one's suggesting that she's not a great person. Everyone knows, in fact, that she's an Aussie hero. That's not the point. We want people to be honest about what actually has happened. And if it has happened, then we need to call it out for what it is. It is racism. And if it was reversed, we know that there would be a bloody riot, Craig.
That's absolutely right.
And I've made that apology. There'd be people demanding that she be sacked or suspended.
I agree with that.
So why are we instead finding new definitions of racism?
They're not new definitions.
No, they are. They're just convenient. They're just convenient. That's what it is. It's all being pulled out now.
Well, they're not convenient. They've been there for a long time. It's just that my understanding is also, like many Australians, is developing.
Most people know.
The comments are offensive if verified as reported.
We know there's a left-wing agenda right now to essentially demonise white people in Australia. Okay, we know that.
I don't know about that. I'm just talking about these comments.
So suddenly it's okay to say what.
Well, you're not accusing me of an agenda.
Well, no, I'm not. But I am saying this.
What I'm saying is,
you've got leaders is coming out, okay, essentially saying it's okay. What about children in classrooms? Is it okay?
It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's offensive.
Okay.
It's offensive. But, you know, in my...
Do you think the comments were offensive then?
If verified, and as I keep saying, you know, we're speculating about all this because there's going to be a court case. However, we need to discuss it. If verified, they are offensive comments, and Sam would need to be and needs to be held responsible for that. And in fact, in some statements yesterday, I said, as the Australian captain, the threshold of behaviour is very high. So there needs to be a conversation about whether she's breached those standards. But what I'm saying is, you know, I think Australia, because we don't talk about racism, you know, and we just kind of start attacking each other all the time, all of our understanding is growing, and that includes me, and I'm an anti-racism campaigner. And so what we're saying is race-based social power is the key issue here. So if someone calls me white so-and-so, it's very offensive to me. Okay, but it's not racist because I have social power, obviously. You know, I'm not someone who is in a marginalised group. Okay. And so that's how...
But maybe this police officer is in a marginalised group.
That's possible. You know, there's much about this that we don't know, but I think, you know...
That's a fair point. There's a lot that we certainly don't know. I do want to move on, but I just want to ask you quickly, Craig, how do you see Football Australia handling this now moving forward?
Great question. So sport doesn't handle racism well. We've seen that in a number of occasions, and that's why I've been speaking about it, unfortunately, having to, but because we need to get this right. We are the multicultural game. This is the first time we've had, you know, this type of situation, and so we're learning fast. As long as Football Australia consult, at the moment what they're saying is it's in the court case and we don't really want to say anything, and that's understandable. Sure. But Australia wants to hear about, you know, this issue that we're discussing.
A lot of politicians are already speaking out. The
President
of New South Wales,
I get it.
Prime Minister,
I get it. And a lot of that I don't support.
Already speaking out.
So the thing I don't like is...
Australia be silent on it?
Yeah, the thing I don't like, and many politicians use actual racist comments, you know, and I support refugees and asylum seekers, for instance, who are very often, you know, racially abused, and we do that, but then, you know, when it comes to this, you know, we don't want to have the conversation, or the opposite, right? So we have to be consistent, but let's go always to the definitions and make sure that we're learning along the way.
We're going to keep having a conversation
Great,
about
happy
this.
Happy to come in tomorrow.
Well, we're getting you on it again, I'm sure that's for sure. But look, let's move on now, because it is game on when it comes to energy policy in this country. The Coalition has confirmed it will take nuclear to the election and build a leading nuclear edge generator as a zero-emissions power source. Tania, do you think that this is a vote winner?
Yeah, I do. And can I just congratulate the Federal Coalition for finally seeing some sense in this, and I hope the New South Wales Coalition follow, because at this stage I don't think it's their policy. Look, Australia has the leading, you know, deposits of uranium. We've got the most, you know, uranium deposits in the world. We should be capitalising on this. We should be at the forefront of nuclear energy, and we've got the opportunity to do that. What we're doing instead is we're seeing Labor governments, you know, essentially stuck in the 80s, okay, with their mindset when it comes to nuclear. They're stuck in the 80s, but what they don't understand is a lot of young people out there now are actually considering and thinking, well, why aren't we looking at nuclear? They didn't grow up in the era of Chernobyl, so they haven't been damaged by all the propaganda around that, right? And so they actually think, well, hang on, it's free of emissions, it's potentially cost-effective, there's great opportunities, and I think the Coalition has been smart enough to jump on this. I know One Nation, we've certainly been a long-time supporters of nuclear energy as a source of energy, and I think it is a vote winner. I think people are waking up to the fact that you can't just put all your, you know, eggs into one basket when it comes to renewable energy for the future, and nuclear is the way to go.
Well, Craig, I mean, as we said, the Coalition is pushing for Australia to join 31 other countries in producing nuclear power. But just to go on Tania's point there have been already so many warnings that Australia will struggle to achieve that net zero by 2050 target if we do it on renewables alone. So is it time to look at an alternative power source, energy source? Yeah,
it's really interesting. So my first question is, like, if we had have moved earlier and not been arguing about renewables, would we not be having this conversation? Like, you know, the point is we need to look at the context of how we actually got here, right? And all of a sudden we're saying, well, we don't have any time. I think, you know, people need to be held accountable for that. Secondly, I think that Australians, certainly I am open to the conversation, but I am concerned. I'm not an expert on it, but I think I would be in the middle ground saying, look, you know, Chernobyl, for example, Tania, you talked about the propaganda of Chernobyl. I mean, that wiped out a whole city, right? And the other thing about it...
There's a lot of explanations to why that happened, Craig, let's be honest, right?
Okay. Well, I'm not an expert on Chernobyl.
No.
I just think that... But what I'll say is that, and what I read about US, about France, about elsewhere, is that the cost blowouts and the time blowouts on bringing these things to life are extreme.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's 18 billion in France, or it might be UK, one of them. Don't quote me.
Well, they say it could take 25
and they're saying 48 billion and so on.
Yeah.
So the real question is...
Renewables are costly too, Craig. You've got to remember that. I mean, we're investing billions of dollars into renewables as well, and it's all... You know, everything costs, right? Ultimately, what I think is happening in some.
But I think the safety of renewables is also something that, you know, most Australians will be much more comfortable with. But given the circumstances, I think you have to have the conversation.
Sure.
But it just has to be based on, you know, the reality of whether these, you know. Is it a potential small backup, for example, which I've heard it being talked about?
We've got the most deposits of uranium in Australia.
But we've also got the most sun in Australia. We've got the most sun in the world.
We've
got the most sun and the most wind.
That as a potential resource.
I was in Queensland last week, Tania. I had zinc on like you wouldn't believe. I had so much zinc on. I was working. I was sweating buckets.
Why are the energy prices so high then? Why are the energy prices so high,
It is
Craig?
so
Tell me why they're so high.
Yeah, we're turning off our appliances in the middle of a heat wave in the
Why are we costing? Why is energy costing so much?
That's it. No, that's it. But look, you know what? Energy is game on, and it's going to be a key policy between now and the election. So one to watch. But I want to talk about supermarkets because this is a real shocker. They've been accused of pressuring fruit growers to slash their prices so they can cut prices in stores. The Senate inquiry into supermarkets has been told that one unnamed supermarket giant recently boasted to shoppers it was dropping the prices on fruit from $3.50 to $2.50 per bag. But then behind closed doors, it pressured its fruit suppliers to heavily cut their own prices to fund the promotion. Tania, this is a shocking, shocking revelation.
It is, and I've got to give credit to the National Farmers Federation, Mr Griffiths, who actually came out in that particular article and has made it so clear that it's time to actually hold these supermarket executives accountable, I think. It really is. There are so many aggressive practices that we're seeing now, and all these Senate inquiries, and indeed I'm sure the ACCC inquiry that will start shortly, they've just issued their paper, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for the growers, the farmers and everybody to come out, and so they should, to actually reveal the type of aggressive practices that are happening behind closed doors by the retail giants. And what we do need to do is it's the ACCC, the power lies with them. They need to be given the power, but you can't just give a fine to these supermarkets. You've got to look at making the supermarket executives accountable.
Absolutely. We've only got 30 seconds left.
Okay, I need 4 words. I'm going to say to Tania, I agree with you.
That's the only thing we can agree on tonight.
For you yet.
There's hope for you yet. Well, look, I tell you what a great debate we've had tonight.
Yes, good, enjoy.
Craig Foster, Tania Mihailuk. We've unfortunately run out of time.
We'll come back.
We'll come back next week. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good week.